Hi there, in this video we're gonna be transforming the Ant Island. Mojang has been refusing to do this for years, so I will take that up on me. By completely removing the island that's there, getting rid of all the pillars and building a beautiful magical world in place of it. And I can say the end result will be amazing. Let's get started. So I really want to start getting rid of this island, but I also do want all these little gateway portals surrounding. Oh, it's very cozy in here. The only way to do that is to respawn the dragon 19 more times. You don't actually need those gateways, but if you decide to do them after destroying the entire island, everything just regenerates. That's not ideal. So let's first kill the dragon 19 more times. For that we'll be needing 4 end crystals for each dragon fight. So I'm gathering up all the ender pearls. I'm already dying to one enderman. The blaze rods for the blaze powder. And killing tons of gas for their tears. I've been going for a bit and at this point I realized I should have brought a looting sword. Yeah, that would have helped. So that was fun. I got enough now, so I'm out. And we finally got everything for the crystals ready. Let's craft it up and travel to the end. I also have to gather a lot of slime from my slime farm, as those are the main resource for the TNT flying machines. And we're at my end portal. I've built this in 2 other videos on the channel. And here we have arrived at the end dimension. And this is gonna be our home for quite a bit now. Finding the dragon once takes how long? Like 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Yeah, times 19. You can kind of see where that's going. Ooh, and now let's start by the first fight. Well, not the first, I have already beaten the dragon of course, but the second one then. How have I died? I never die during these fights. Yikes. Well yeah, that does make it take longer. Let's finish this one off then. Well, that was an interesting fight. Excuse me. Let's do this 18 more times. Today is an Ant transformation, but did you know that Mojang almost just called it the Sky? In early development, Mojang considered that the name for the Ant, and evidence can be found for that in some old coding, as it still refers to it as the Sky. Another fun fact I learned about this place is that the void isn't just an empty space. The void is technically just a kill plane. Anything that touches it, even mobs that are completely immune to fall damage, instantly die at Y-64. I thought that was kind of interesting. We are really getting there, and fortunately I haven't died. We're really nearing the end of this process now. This will be the second to last fight. And yeah, the fun has run its course. I'm ready to be done with this. And there it is, the very last dragon fight of this world actually. I will never respawn the dragon again. And there she goes. It's done. It's finally done. Now it is time to get rid of this island. I will start by removing these obsidian pillars, but of course there's a little piece of bedrock up top which you can't mine, so we'll have to get creative with it. So this little contraption should get rid of the bedrock, I hope. Why is this not working? No! Come on, go away. Hang on a second, I am using TNT. I think endstone has a different blast resistance, so I'll change it out for stone, see if that works. Yep, that did it. If I just had followed the tutorial directly, that would have worked instantly. Fantastic. But now the process is very easy and simply repeated. So let's do this for all the pillars. Now we're getting rid of the obsidian, the insane absolute massive amount of obsidian. I counted them with schematic mod and there were like 23 shulker boxes full with stacks of obsidian. That's a lot. So to speed up the process, I will place beacons all the way around. And we're ready to dig in. Now with the efficiency 5 netherite pickaxe and haste 2 beacon next to it, it is still slow as can be. This little clip is already at 800 times speed. That is ridiculous. I started a similar project on my previous single player world that I never recorded, and I quit halfway through. I didn't exactly remember why I quit, but I can see why now. So to spare you the full 30 hours of digging, I will give you a montage. And there we are, although not really. As you may or not know, these pillars extend way further, to Y0 in fact. So let's dig further. And these are the last layers of this first pillar. At the absolute bottom of the world, let's be very careful to not fall down into the void. I've checked if my elytra's on and keep my finger to the hotkey of the firework rockets. Now I have to be very careful. Break this last block and spam rockets. Go, go, go! That's stressful. But we got it. And this looks kinda mad. I've never gotten rid of one of these pillars entirely before, but it does open up the space very nicely on the island. The rest of the pillars still needs to go, and I think I will start with the thicker, taller ones, as those will take the longest, and then the later part of the job will feel going more smoothly. We're making good progress here, so let's continue. And of course I'm gathering lots and lots of obsidian. The good thing about that is I will never run out of that resource again. The only reason that I am transforming this entire end dimension is because it is kind of boring. It's just one island and some islands around. There's nothing to it. Also I thought there are actually hidden end biomes. This goes for Java version only. The end technically contains several biomes, like end highlands, end barrens, and small end islands, even though they look very similar. And by similar I mean pretty much exactly the same. It is starting to look more and more empty up here. Normally I change the look of my world by building and adding something to the terrain, but getting rid of things also gives that massive effect. I don't know how many people have seen an empty end dimension in their own world, but for me, this is a new one. Oh, these Enderman, man. Yeah, go away. Good riddance. Now all the pillars are gone. This was a massive task, but the island is still very much here. Now, digging it out, that takes far too long. I'm not gonna do that. Of course, I couldn't blow up the pillars with TNT, but that doesn't go for the end island, which is very susceptible to the TNT. So I'm gonna blast through it. Of course, before I forget and take every bit of obsidian out to my storage system, I will leave a bit here, as that should be put over the portal. If I wouldn't do that, I think all the TNT flying through would end up at the world spawn. So if I die while missing a bed, you know how that's gonna end. In the end I got around 22 full shulker boxes of obsidian. I calculated there would have been 23 shulker boxes, but of course some fell into the void, some despawned. It's fine. I got enough forever. And now it is time to start building up all of these flying machines. I think there will be like 20 to 30 of them to span the entire island. Looking at it, yeah, this is the longer side of the island, so I should be building them at the shorter side to get the maximum range of them. Now I'm making a big planet in this video, but I've also heard a fun fact about planets. What planet is closest to Earth? So you'd say Mars or Venus, probably, which is totally wrong. During most percentage of the year, Mercury is actually the closest planet to Earth. That's because even in a picture Mars is closest, it often finds itself on the other end of the sun to us, which means the sun is always closest, and the planet closest to the sun is Mercury. And with that, the last flying machines are built and ready to go. First, of course, I need to cover up this portal that I left some obsidian behind for. So let's send out all of these flying machines. Oh, why doesn't this work? I forgot to adapt the repeater. Great. Rebuild the first ones. Now it is time to send them all out. Yes, look at them go. This works now. And this will take about an hour to run through. But that's quite good time if you consider digging it out would take 3 weeks. Wow, there's already sky seeing through. Oh, it was a glitch. Guess not then. 2 of them are already broken, come on. This always happens with these things. They're so glitchy. On the other hand, I am using a bug to do this, so it's probably fair. Interesting use of game mechanics, let's say. And the flying machines are finally done after indeed an hour. Now unfortunately some of them have broken, leaving some of these strips of land in their way. It's kind of weird that this pattern turned out like this. So it's probably best to just restart those machines again. By restart I mean completely rebuild them. And then all these little floating blocks in between you can't really hit with TNT anymore. So that's just a case of flying around and digging them out all by hand. And of course getting rid of all of these redundant flying machines. What a mess. And after all that we're left with a completely empty void. Well, except for underneath the portal. That's why the TNT just completely couldn't reach. So that's the last thing we need to dig out. Of course, also I can remove the cover on top of the portal, as no more TNT will be flying through this end dimension. And that is it, the last piece of endstone removed from the end. I mean within sight, of course there's many end islands out there, but from this central spot nothing can be seen but void and portals, exactly as I wanted it. Now after all of this destruction, it is finally time to start building something. That is my absolute favorite part, and this will make this end dimension amazing. This ring adds a nice subtle detail to the surrounding portals and already gives a whimsical theme. Now it is time for the big planet / moon going in the middle of this. This will be the main feature, but that requires a ton of resources. So let's get them. Hello. For this planet I will be needing a lot, and I do mean a lot, of stone, andesite and cobblestone. For the cobblestone I'll be needing just over 3,000, for the andesite over 24,000, and for the stone a whopping 30,000 blocks. That is what it takes to build a planet, I guess. With all the resources in hand, let's get to the end dimension. Ah, friends. Now this one is a bit tricky. I have to first get to the bottom of the world. That will be Y0, and I will be slowly swimming down a water stream to place blocks back to that level. Bit tricky, but there we are. And expanding that one singular block in the middle, let's build up the very first ring of this planet. Now there will still be a hole remaining in the middle, as the world simply isn't big enough to fit this entire planet in. And I wanted to make that ring with the portals around the middle belt of it. So the bottom is missing slightly, but you will never be able to tell. Except for now, of course. With such a small platform, lots of endermen are spawning, but with these extra rings added, it's coming along very nicely, and it does reduce the endermen quite a lot. I'm putting some torches on the inside, but I have no idea how to light up the outside of this thing, or even if I will do that. But there's a lot more levels to go, so let's speed this up. And that will see us finish the bottom part of the planet. Now building on an outward curve, that is far more challenging than building an inward curving slope. So I would imagine that the top part of the planet will go a lot more smoothly. Now about the lighting of this planet, just a few soul lanterns around the middle belt, I think that accentuates the build quite nicely. Bye! I won't put it everywhere as that won't really work with the lighting patterns. Now it is time to start focusing on the city going up top. And if you have seen other videos in this world, you may know I like building with the pale oak and quartz blocks. Also you might know that I said I was kinda done with it and now we're back to it. By this time I have to fly out quite a distance to find some quartz, gather it all up and be ready to build. Also, like mentioned, I will be needing tons and tons of pale oak blocks, but luckily I have a farm for that, so that will be fine. The castle I'll be building today is inspired by another survival build I built in an entirely another server, that being the server that me and my wife play on. I think that gets the fantasy aesthetic across very well. Of course, with the slight difference of it not being in the overworld, so not a lot of greenery, but in the black void of the end, and the roof color will be more bluish. Because of the shaders, there's already a purple hue going around, and with the purple roofs, like I did in my survival world, that would just fall to the background way too much. I wanted to make a bigger base of the build to give it a lot of structure, but this shouldn't start looking like a skyscraper. It needs to have a magical feel, and I think I achieved that by going up a level smaller each time and making the top part a thin, very tall structure. I didn't go for a standard steep roof or domed roof in this case, but I went with an onion dome, kind of. This one is looking nicely, but I said there would be 2 towers, so there we are, 2 for the price of 1. These are the top 2 towers of the build. These will stand out the most, so they should be a definite feature. Also I put some black concrete on the bottom parts of it to really nicely contrast with the white. But now we have 2 exact identical towers, and of course for a very interesting fantasy look, we're not just gonna be placing the same tower everywhere. Now the second type of building will be more of a gatehouse, and I've made it myself a lot more difficult again by building this one on an angle. This will not be the only type of build going on an angle, as these angles do add quite a bit of interest to the build. Everything going in straight would look far too modern, but a fantasy, more random aesthetic really works well. And that is the second type of building, built up nicely as well. I really like how it came out. The angle of it, which is not quite 45 degrees, really adds a lot more flavor to the build. I also did build the exact same on the other side, as I did with the bigger tower. Of course you could make any build random, but some cohesion really works, especially when you throw around messy buildings like this. Now in between here there need to be a ton more towers, buildings and houses, which we will be moving onto. This is starting to look really good. So far we have built a square building on an angle, and that's kind of it. It's all square. We need some rounding in there. So these buildings that will be going in, and I will make more of them, will be a more circular shape with a dome roof up top. I have really tried to make these roofs stand apart quite a bit to give a far more interesting skyline to it. So that was 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them and a 4th, and that is looking quite good. However, I feel like they're floating off the edge a bit too much. Now what I think will look nice is to build up the ground a bit towards the base layers of all these towers. Yeah, that looks already a whole lot better, and this will be done all over the place. But first, before I can start raising the rocks around the planet, there's of course gotta be more towers. And the same principle applies. We made a square thicker tower, a square tower on an angle, and circular towers now. We'll be needing something new, that being a square tower, but very thin. Yes, it's all very exciting, I know. The design of these towers are quite basic and won't stand out anywhere, and that's exactly the point of it. It's mostly to raise the skyline and give it a more interesting look. These towers will not just be 1 or 2 of them, but I think like 8, and that's probably gonna be adding a whole lot to it. So let's place them in all around the place. Now there is one final tower design I want to be putting onto this planet. That being a smaller, more sturdy square building with again an onion dome up top, like with the taller structures. These last additions will finish off all the towering structures over this planet. I'll place them around a bit, but then it's time to start placing in the walls and building the houses around. I made sure to keep these walls very simple, but on the end of some of them, for example this one, I'll be putting a little cover over it to give a little more interest to the build. Also, everything would look way too white otherwise, so a bit of the blue roof really is necessary. The principle of designing these walls is very simple. Just fill in the gaps between the towers. Make it a bit curved and that's about it. There's not too much thinking about it. I've also not designed them before. Just place them in. It totally works. Now nearing the completion of the build, it is time to put in the first houses. These houses I will raise a bit above the ground and be blocking them between buildings to give more shape to the castle. They will be similar in style to the towers and also be built out of white pill oak, cyan windows and blue on the roof of course. I made sure to vary the roof lines a bit as those will stand out the most. Some of them will have pointy roofs, the other will have more curved roofs, the other one more of a slope. And of course, many of them will also be on an angle to give more of that chaotic, varied fantasy look. And with that, the last houses are done. As you can see, by putting in all these houses around, it created a little cozy plaza space in the middle. Yes, I'm also gonna destroy that plaza a little. Right underneath this floor here is the portal, and I would like an open entry to that. So let's start breaking a bit of this planet and open up the plaza. With that, making a very nice centerpiece to the portal. There is plenty of space in here to create something magical. I won't fill out all the spaces as that's just not necessary. You're not gonna see a lot of it. Looks kinda fun with all the lights here. Kind of a constellation. Anyway, let's finish off this edge to not just make it look like a hole in the ground, which it will always be, but it shouldn't look like one. But first it felt a bit dark up here, so I was playing around with a few lantern designs. I did make some more complicated than this, some more easier than this, but I think I found the right mix with this one. So the edge looks a lot better now. I've placed in a lot of lighting and some light blue carpet all around the floor. Now for the exit of the end portal, I want to be building some sort of tube going down with a starry night surrounding you. This means I will follow this entire circle all the way down to Y0. The design of it will be very simple. Black concrete all around the edges, place some end rods against them and then add a glass layer. One glass layer doesn't do a whole lot, but when you keep stacking those glass layers all around, that will give more of a foggy effect and make it look like the stars are far more distant. And there it is, the full build is done. The magical planet castle floating in the end. I think this is a massive end upgrade, and it's very unlikely Mojang will ever add anything like this to the end, as I think they shouldn't. The creative freedom I got for this was very welcome. It actually turned out like quite a big castle with lots of alleyways, houses and towers surrounding you. For filming it, I didn't really know which side I wanted to show the most, and that I think is a very good sign that any way you look at it, it looks fine. Although I think that's up to you, what you think of this build. I've made sure you could walk all around this castle and check the scenes out for yourself. We walk through one of these angled entrances, which will lead us into the main plaza with a massive gaping hole through the middle of the planet. I think this is a much better solution than just leaving a flat open plaza up top. Plazas are good and I like building them, but for this magical theme, I think just an open gap that will lead you into the portal directly really works. Even though every tower is kind of on a different angle, we got a lot of variations going on. I don't think one of them sticks out too much, and that's a great thing. It looks like one cohesive city all the way around you. I think this is a far more fun space to spend your time in when visiting the end. I think this place became a lot more homely. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I'm really curious what you thought of this build, and if you liked it, please let me know by liking and commenting. If you want to see this world progress further, there's so much more to come. My head is running over with plans. Then you can also make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.